Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This next piece that we're going to be doing in the next set of videos is the Freeman Ford Serving Table. It's from the Ford house, which is another of the Greene and Greene houses. It's a really cool table. We're going to have some pictures here. I'll show you some of the details of it. One of the things, it's a pretty commonly built table for Greene and Greene. However, most people that build it with square legs. Maybe the top doesn't overhang it the way the actual one does. So with this one, what we're going to be doing is building an actual reproduction of the table. We're going to be doing the inlays in the top. There are some wood inlays in the top of the table that are contrasting colors and wood. Stand a little bit proud of the surface. The legs have a detail to them that we're going to zoom in here and I'll show you in a second. They're not rectangular or square. They've got a concave surface on all four sides of the legs that give them kind of a unique look. So the purpose of today's video, I'm going to need to, there are a few different ways I guess you could make the legs. You could make some kind of custom plane or scraper to get that concave surface in it. You could do it with a series of cove router bit and do a series of passes that move deeper and deeper as you come into the center, and then you'd have to come back with some kind of concave sanding surface to get that out. What I'm going to do is actually have some custom router bits made that are going to be the shape of this so that I can run it through the router table or have the CNC do it in one pass with the bit. So what I'm going to do in this video is kind of show you my process of how I do the drawings and what I put together to send to the company to have the custom router bits made. I plan on making more of these tables than just this one. So if I were going to do a one-off, I probably wouldn't go to the expense of having custom bits made. But since I plan on making more than just one of these, I am going to have the custom bits made. I built one of these in the past, and I built it with just square legs and did a couple other things with the legs on that one to kind of make it my own. But this one, the client wants it to be a reproduction of the original. So we're going to go ahead and have those bits made, do it up as a custom table with everything that is on the original. So this should be a fun, cool build. We're going to do it kind of in a series so that we can put a little more detail into each portion of the build. So be looking forward to that. This is the first one, and let's get in and zoom in, and I'll show you what the detail of the legs looks like. So here's a drawing of the actual table. So as we come across, you'll see here's a plan view, or I'm sorry, a front elevation. So as we go up, we'll see there's the plan view. And then we're going to get a good detailed look at the legs. So this is from the top of the leg looking down. So you can see here this concave portion of the legs. So overall you have your rectangle, and then there's a concave portion taken out of the leg all the way around. So these here in the middle are the ebony plugs. You have your mortises and tenons that come in from your rails, and they're haunched mortises and tenons. So you'll see you have the smaller tenon here, and then the wider part of the full rail actually comes into your leg, so it hides that edge. It would be on a leg that's flat and rectangular, your tenon would go in and then your rail would butt right up against the leg. But since this is a curved surface, you would have to come up with a curved surface on your rail as well. And if you look, another thing that's different is the rail is not centered in the legs. So with your leg being off center from your rails, it's another reason trying to cut this curved portion on your rail would be really tough when it's not centered. I mean, it would be tough even if it was centered. So the way we do that is we hide the rail inside of the leg, and those are called haunched mortise and tenons. So your rail is actually going to come into the leg. So what I'm going to do with these is, before I even put these curved portions into the legs, I'm going to have all my mortise and tenons done. So they're already cut. That way we're not trying to mill mortises into the leg with these shapes already cut into it. It's much easier to do when the leg is rectangular and can sit flat and all the surfaces that you're dealing with are flat. And then after all of those things are milled, the ebony plug holes are cut in, the mortises are cut into the legs, then we'll come back and do this detail here. That'll make it a lot easier. So to get this, of how we're going to make our router bits to fit this, what we need to know basically is the width of the leg, which here at the top it shows us the legs 2 7/8 wide, and then it's 1.5 inches thick. So we have this here that we're going to calculate, and this here, and it shows a line across the front. So if you measure from that line across the front to the depth, it's 1/8 inch deep, but we're going to need where our ends are here. So what I'm going to do is scan this, bring it into the computer, and then on the computer I'll be able to easily draw some lines to calculate out where this is going to pass through and where the end of the cutting edge of the bit needs to be. So when it's 1/8 inch deep, you see it doesn't come all the way out to the corners. It's set in a little bit. So on the computer it'd be easy to do that, to figure out where these are just by drawing that line across there, and that intersection point of the line and our curve, it measured in from the end here, is going to give us that distance on two sides. Then you divide that, and that'll give us how wide the bit needs to be when it's at 1/8 inch deep. So we'll go ahead and scan that, get it into the computer, and then we'll pick back up. Okay, so you see here I've got the top view of that leg brought into the computer. So the program I'm using here is Aspire by Vectric. It's a 3D or 2D plus CAD program for doing CNC stuff or any type of other stuff with a laser or CAD type stuff where you can do your drawings and then convert it to your G code to do your cutting. So I've brought the top view of the leg into here. So I'm going to go ahead and get how I want my measurements. So the first thing I want to do is to be able to see how far off of the edge this center portion is for the curvature of the router bit. I'm going to draw a couple lines. So I'll go up here and grab my line tool, and I'm just going to draw a straight line that's straight up and down 90 degrees, and then I'm going to bring it straight over so I've got a line perpendicular to that. So we've got our two lines there. So I'm going to highlight our leg here, and it's set up so that it'll snap right to the lines that we've drawn. So I'll bring it down, and it's going to snap right to that right line. I bring my mouse down here on the bottom, put it right there, bring it down, and it's going to snap to that bottom line. So you can see I'm a little over here, so I'll just bring it back, and now I've snapped right to that line, and I moved. So go straight up. So now you can see here at the bottom, I'm snapped straight to the bottom line, and I'm snapped straight to this line on the right here. So if we pull back out, you can see we have a nice straight line to pull off of. Now the challenge you run into here, if you're just looking at it, is where's exact center? Because with this being concave, if you pull off in different spots up and down, you're going to get different measurements. So we want to make sure that we're measuring right at the middle of the leg this way and right at the middle of the leg this way. So what I'm going to do is draw a couple more lines. So I'll draw a line here, and right now it doesn't matter whether I'm centered or not, because we're going to come back and center it. So I just need a line really drawn anywhere, and this next one I'll show you, I'll make sure that it's way off center. We'll just put it right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that line, hold down Shift here and highlight the leg itself. Then I'll come over to this centering tool, and it's going to align my center line. So whatever I selected last, everything else will be centered to that. So I selected the line first, and then I selected the leg. So when I center this side to side, it's going to center that line right in the middle of the leg. So then I'll do the same thing with this line. And this one, the move will be much more dramatic because I drew it all the way up here. So I'm going to highlight the line first, then I'm going to highlight the leg, and then I'll click here to center it up and down. And there you can see it drop down, and now it's right centered in that leg, top and bottom. So we're going to close that. So now we have our leg bisected in both directions. We've got our line here on our edges to pull our measurements. So I'm going to come to the measuring tool, zoom in here a little bit. So right at this intersection here, I'm going to click, come over to the intersection with the concave curved portion, and we can bring that down, and we got 0.1253. So for the purposes of the router bit, I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch. That's a much easier number, and 3/10,000ths of an inch, no one's going to ever notice the difference in that. So I think I was listening to Daryl Peart one time, and he said it's about, or when I took his class, it's about 5/1000ths of an inch that you can feel with your finger. So if you feel your finger across something, you just barely feel a little bit of a lip, that's about 5/1000ths of an inch. So that would be here, the 0.125, that would be 5/1000ths of an inch, is 0.005. We're here, this is over 1/8 of an inch by 0.0003. No one would ever see or feel or notice that. So I'm going to have the curvature of the router bit be 1/8 of an inch. And then on our second one here, for our other end, same thing. It's going to be click there, click here. We're going to bring that one down over here, and we're at 0.1246. So again, I'm going to round that up to 1/8 of an inch, which would make it 0.125. So here we're off of 1/8 of an inch the other direction by 4/10,000ths of an inch. So I'm going to have both of these be 1/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of these measurements. I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. Go ahead and delete this one. And I'm going to go ahead and basically kind of make the router bit. I know that I want them to be 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to get rid of these lines here. So now here I'm going to highlight this part again. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that to make another version of it here. So just pull that over to the side here. And on this one, I'm going to go into the node edit mode. So I'm going to come over here, click on this, and it's going to break it down into the nodes here. So what I'm going to do is my part that I want to have curved for the router bit, I don't want it coming back up this direction. So I'm going to break it right here. I'm going to cut the vector here, cut the vector here. And then what I can do is start a new line. Sorry, actually, let me go back, and I'm going to do the same thing with the sides here. So this one here, cut vector. This side up here, cut vector. So now I'm going to get rid of the rest of this, and I'm going to get rid of this, because these are going to be my two router bits. So what I'm going to do here is extend this out and go quarter inch out that way. And on our other side, same thing, we'll go quarter inch out. I'm going to highlight this whole thing here. We'll go to our node mode here and smooth that. So there's our bit. So we have our router bits curved like that right there. And then, you know, what it's going to end up looking like would be, you know, if you go 1/2 inch. So there you're going to have, you would have the bit there. Same thing here. We're going to extend out 1/4 inch. Extend out 1/4 inch. Come down 1/4. And there you go, and there's that bit. So this one I actually only went 0.2. So we're going to bring that down a little more, just so it's like that. So then, of course, I mean, this isn't going to be to scale, but so there you have your bit, and then you would have your shank like that. So there you would have what is in essence your router bit. And the same thing for this one up here, you would have your 1/2 inch shank. Well, that's off a little bit, but you get the idea of what that would be. So there's one router bit for the one side, here's a router bit for the other. So we take those and we can match them right up to our leg. So then we will be able to take our legs, do all of our mortise and tenons in them. Well, tenons will be in the rails, but we can do all our mortises in the legs that we need to. We can do our ebony plugs that we need to while it's still square, and then we'll go through and with these bits we'll be shaping the legs into the final shape that's going to go into the piece of furniture. So hopefully this kind of helps shed some light on how some of these things are done. Same thing, before I take these bits and do this, I would take a round over bit here on the corner here and get that. Of course, you can see there that I'm a little off there, but I'll take a round over bit and round the corners of the square post or rectangular post before we do these concave portions. And again, we can use the tool here to give us what that arc is going to be. Actually doesn't want to really, well, because it's not an even arc, that's probably why. So it's not going to give us that arc, but what we could do would be, you know, just to kind of figure out close to what that arc's going to be, because there's going to be some sanding that's going to go in. We could always draw our straight line just like we did before. Draw our line. Like we did before. There's our line that we had. Of course, we want to bring this one out so that it's lined up here, and we're lined up down here. And then we could just take the radius tool, and let's say we make a 1/2 inch radius. Okay, that's too big. So let's go back, let's make it a 1/4 inch radius and see what it does. Okay, so looks like we're just under a 1/4 inch radius. So maybe let's try 0.1875, which would be 3/16. We'll try that. So we're right in there between 3/16 and a 1/4 inch. So probably would do this 3/16, so it's just shallow of it. And then once we put this bit in and this bit in, there'll be a little bit of a proud spot there, like a little kind of point to it. And when we sand all this back, then we'll hit what our radius should be. And again, with Greene and Greene stuff, everything was rounded over by hand. So to give it that aged and weathered and look that it had already been around 100 years. So none of these roundovers are going to be exactly 0.25 or 0.1875. Everything's going to be hand sanded, and nothing is going to be perfectly exactly matching. This isn't furniture that was built to be super exact. It was meant to look lived with. It was meant to look beautiful, but at the same time looked like the place had been lived in, and it wasn't like a museum showpiece. So all of these things are going to be hand sanded, and none of them are going to look the same, but at the same time it's all going to look uniform and beautiful. So hopefully this helped kind of show how you would do something like this. If you have any questions, put it down below in the notes or in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, and we're going to be moving forward with this piece. So I'm going to get these router bits made. It'll probably take a few weeks, but in the meantime, we'll be milling lumber and doing some other stuff and making some other videos. So as we go, in one of the later videos, we'll be getting to where we're using these router bits, and you'll get to see the bits themselves after they've been made, and you'll get to see the actual use of them and how we use them. I'll probably do one of them in the CNC and the other will be in the router table, but you'll get a good look at the process for this to try and make some of this stuff a little simpler than creating custom hand planes or a custom scraper and spending hours and hours and hours getting these curves into here. So hopefully that helped. I'll see you in the next one.